Hello and welcome to Guy Cocker's Video Games Podcast, episode 20 on 27th of September 2013. I'm your host, Guy Cocker, and on this week's show, I'm joined by the team from GamesIndustry.biz here at Eurogamer Expo to discuss this week's news and address your feedback. My first guest today is Matt Martin, the European editor of GamesIndustry.biz, which is the market-leading website and community for news and information about the global video games industry, covering all aspects of the interactive entertainment value chain. Wow. That's the official line anyway. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Guy. You make it sound awesome.
You wrote that. That was that's on the site in the About You page.
I probably wrote it about 4 years ago.
So thanks for joining us. My second guest is not Rachel Webber. It's Dan Pearson. Dan, thanks very much for joining us. You're Deputy European Editor.
I am, yes.
You're a late addition. Rachel was unfortunately ill, is she?
She has been stricken with a bug, yes, so she's recovering at home with some Dawson's Creek and a dog, I think, at the moment.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us, and all the best to Rachel. And my final guest is Matthew Handrahan, the staff writer of the team, who has also been on the site since 2011, like Rachel, and previously spent more than 5 years at award-winning magazine Games TM. Matt, this is your second time on the show following the Xbox One announcement, so thanks for coming on again.
It is a great privilege to be back.
Now, you guys are, we're at Eurogamer Expo. We're in your kind of, what is this room, the careers fair that you're doing?
Yeah, the Games Industry Careers Fair.
So tell us, people can listen to this on the Friday, so they can still come down on the weekend. I think this is, the games industry side is closed, but people can still come and see the Eurogamer Expo panels.
Yeah, that's about the size of it.
That's about it, okay. So thanks very much for joining us. But people that don't know, what is, maybe this is best for you, Matt, what is GamesIndustry.biz?
So we're a website that's aimed at the trade, so it's aimed at the games industry. So we are read by developers, publishers, marketing, PR, everyone that works in a particular field or sector of the games business. So rather than angling our content towards consumers, it's all about the issues and the news of the games industry. So also our community is built up of developers and publishers and such like, so that our comment section is all kind of it's verified industry users. Basically everyone's verified as working in the games industry. So it's kind of like a little games industry ecosystem, I guess. It's
an interesting point about the site, actually. You do get some really big names commenting on it, and it avoids the usual sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but the swearing and...
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, so what we ask is that everyone comments using their real name and job position and company, which adds a little bit of sense to a lot of the comments. But it turns out some people are unpleasant generally, and regardless of their job title or name. But yeah, we get big names. We get John Riccitiello commenting, and Peter Moore and people like that. We get a lot of game developers. It's always nice to see. It kind of adds, it doubles the impact of the content that we write, right? So if we've got a story about a problem in game development, and then you have 20 developers chipping in with their opinions, and it creates such a bigger story. So yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of unique what we do that. There's no other sites that do that. Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, Matt, you've been on the show before, and you've got a consumer background, but you go very in depth in the industry. You've got a lot of. I say GamesIndustry.biz probably has the best industry contacts in the industry, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we'd like to think so. I think it's having come from the consumer side. You kind of get used to being suspected of ill dealings and things like this. Like people view you with a lot more caution, the PR people, the developers, but whereas on the trade side, particularly with the games industry, because we are one of the bigger players out there catering for the actual industry itself, people are a lot more friendly, they're more trusting, like you learn a lot more, you're trusted with information in a way that you just never would be on the consumer side. Like you do feel like you're part of the industry rather than sitting outside it. Right. People don't see you as a sales, a place to sell their products so much. This is a place where people come to actually discuss the issues that are important to them, which I think a lot of consumer sites aspire to, but they just can't reach it, because when you're reviewing their games, which is something we don't do, we don't preview, we don't review, because we just want to remain an objective source for information and discussion. And like Matt says, when those comments get going, like an article I write in couple of hours, a few hundred words, then has thousands and thousands of words of very well educated discussion exploring every other conceivable angle. So it kind of has momentum when you have a readership of that sort of quality and who really understand what goes on in the industry.
Dan, you were saying just ahead of the podcast that you're an industry focused site, but you still GTA is the big story of the week.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it tends to follow the same trends as the consumer side. I mean, essentially it's probably most of the time we're writing about what's making money, to be honest. We write a lot about free to play, we write a lot about mobile recently, but that tends to be the stuff that makes waves. I mean, the people who are reading it are in the business, they've got a vested interest in this stuff, so it tends to be that's what attracts attention, and GTA just does keep throwing up lovely stories. So.
We'll talk about GTA in the news section. Before we get into the feedback, though, if you want to comment on the show and let me know what you think, please email podcast@guycocker.com and let me know. So first email this week from Paul Andrews, and this is a good one for you guys. It says, "Hi Guy, DealSpawn, which is a deal-based website, reported last week that anonymous sources claim the PlayStation 4 outstrips the Xbox One in terms of performance. Forgetting for a moment the validity of these claims, my question for you and your podcast guests is this. If one console proved to perform better than the other, would any developer publicly come out and say so on the record?" What do you guys think on this?
Well, I think it did happen last generation, didn't it? I think Valve's Gabe Newell was pretty outspoken against the PlayStation 3 at one point. I mean, but then I think what we're looking at here is, what do you mean by performance? I mean, because from a developer's point of view, performance is how well they can actually make a game for it, how efficient it is, how quickly they can get things done. Whereas on the consumer side of things, it's how good are the graphics, how many particle effects on screen at once. So performance is it's not a cut and dried thing, I don't think. But I think maybe a few developers would, but I would maybe suspect their motives. I don't know how you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw it last generation with the PS3, and a lot of the first party, second party Sony stuff. People were saying once you get the grips with the cell, it's brilliant. And if you know how it's working and you can use it to its fullest extent, it's amazing. But it is harder. And we have a thing at Eurogamer, the Digital Foundry face-off stuff, and generally it sort of fluttered a bit at the beginning, but towards the end, everything's been pretty much on parity, and I think that's probably going to be the case again this time, to be honest. But I'd be surprised if any developer came out and said, "I've developed that system and it sucks," because that's their job.
You don't want to burn your bridges. You don't know who you're going to be working for in a couple of years' time. But also, this generation or the new generation is going to be it's all based on PC architecture, right? So it's going to be very similar, and then they're also going to be utilising the cloud a lot, which is going to start. When you start using the cloud for a lot of your calculations and stuff, hardware tech spec that's in the box becomes less relevant.
There'll be more powerful machines in 5 years than they are in November.
Certainly.
And whatever the current gulf between these two new consoles, it's not going to be as wide as it was in the last generation. Right. I mean, everyone expects this generation. It's a multi-format generation. All of the big games, like the exclusive games, are not the system sellers anymore. It's the Call of Duties, it's the Assassin's Creed, and frankly, there is no incentive for Ubisoft to make one version of Assassin's Creed much better than the other. No, but I mean, I talked to Lorne Lanning about this just the other day. Lorne Lanning of Oddworld, and he said that the PlayStation 4 will be preferred by developers because it is a lot easier to work with. There are just still some foibles with the Xbox One that just make it harder to get your work done, and I think that's the side of things. But I just don't think anyone has the option to say, well, we don't care about the Xbox,
Yeah, so it's something I've heard echoed off the record that PlayStation 4 is just at the beginning at least, and obviously the tools will improve over time, but the PlayStation 4 is a little bit easier to develop for. Okay, I've got a question from Aidan Sims about PlayStation Home, if you can believe it. But this is from Aidan. He says the improvement in sound quality on the podcast has made a massive difference, but he says, I've got two questions on the PlayStation 4. First one is, while smaller and indie titles were often reasonable, the digital download versions of big titles on PlayStation 3 were often massively overpriced compared to their retail equivalents. £60 for FIFA springs to mind. Considering the obvious push towards digital on PlayStation 4, do you have any ideas about how the pricing will compare? And then second, more importantly, will PlayStation Home be making the jump to PlayStation 4? I've not heard it mentioned yet, and I'm anxious about where I'm going to find my robot dancing fix. And that's from Aidan, who's on Twitter as HeyDoc. What do you think? It's the first time I've heard.
I suspect the second question's the easier one to answer, right?
Yeah,
I would have
I-
thought probably no.
probably
Yeah.
not.
I'm surprised.
Is it even still going
I
on
don't think-
PS3? Can you log in anymore?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can.
you can,
It's
you can,
just
definitely.
I only ever do it by accident when I'm trying to get to the store, basically.
I'm pretty sure Sony made quite a lot of money off that with very little work.
Yeah.
Well, once it was up and running. But I don't think it's going to be on PS4. But I'm also surprised people are actually asking the question.
That's the first time I've even heard PlayStation Home mentioned.
Everyone's forgotten about it. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
He's the one guy dancing on his own, wherever it is, home
In a
space.
virtual world.
Yeah.
Having a
That,
great
that,
time.
but that first question is interesting because it's actually something we've discussed a little bit in recent times. Of
Yeah.
why?
We struggled to get an answer from
It,
people.
Yeah, I asked,
it will be dodged quite happily by almost anyone you care to ask.
Yeah.
So that particular question was geared towards the PlayStation, but it's the same for the Xbox. I interviewed Phil Harrison from Microsoft last week, and I asked him that very question, and he spun it around basically and said, well, he was kind of honest, and he said that if you want games to continue to be this high quality, as much money as possible has to go back to the developers. So when you buy a box game, you're partly paying for the distribution in the shop and the manufacturing of pieces of plastic. When you buy it digitally, all that's cut out, so you would think the price would drop because you're not paying for that anymore. But the Microsoft's official answer was that, well, we still need that money to build the games. So then you're asking the question, well, are games getting more expensive to develop? I think they are, but not as significantly as they were for the last generation.
I think there's an element as well of keeping the retailers happy to that to a certain extent. I mean, it's obviously a very symbiotic relationship the platform holders have with brick and mortar retailers, and if you start undercutting them in a way that they can't compete with, then they're going to get upset and
But
it's going to stop stocking your machines.
This isn't undercutting. It's not even on the same level. It's more expensive. It feels.
I mean, it's the argument you pay
like
extra
a
for the
scam.
convenience, I suppose. You don't have to go out and go to the shop. You
Sure.
can sit on your sofa and an hour later you've got a new game.
It's always an interesting one though, because there is that retail will threaten to stop stocking PlayStation 4, whatever it is, but can they afford to do that?
Well, Microsoft and Sony still need retailers to sell the console. I don't think digital commerce has got to the point where you can shift 100 million units of a console without a high street presence. We're still in that world. For how long, I don't know. And for whether or not that's going to disappear this generation or whether it'll be the next, it's hard to say. But, having read Matt's interview with Phil Harrison, it's not a disingenuous answer. It's just that, to the question, okay, well, I know as much money as possible going back to the developer, but okay, well, why not just subtract what it costs to make the box and ship the disc and all of this, and maybe it's only £9 cheaper, but what he's pointing out is it's more expensive online, which does seem like it's a strategy more than a necessity, because it is cheaper to sell that digital product, so why does it cost more? So there's this thing of like, you can ask someone a question and it is effectively an honest answer, but it doesn't really take in the nuance of the situation, which seems, as Dan says, to be tied into the need to keep retail in the equation right now. At least that's
It
what
also
we're
tells me that consumers are willing to pay that price because
Yeah.
they're still priced that high.
I assume
if people
G's-
are paying for it. What you're never going to drop the price.
Yeah, it's true.
The digital prices would have dropped if people weren't spending that money.
Yeah.
What's
So
the
they must be.
roughly, and Matt, and if anyone else can answer this? So, what's the split? I assume it's about 40% to PlayStation Store and Xbox on the digital side to sell that game. What's it like at retail? Is it roughly the same? Does a retailer take 40% of the cut?
I don't
No,
think
it's less than that,
no,
isn't
it?
crikey. I'm trying to think.
I think it's probably single digits in pounds, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a couple of pounds.
Right.
Law-
Like,
law-
it goes to the shop. Like, famously, and you've probably seen it with GTA 5, retailers will buy their stock from Amazon or they'll buy it from Tesco's when
Yeah.
they've got a price discount because it's cheaper than getting them from the distributor
Right.
or from the publisher.
Yeah.
So, peanuts.
I mean, Lorne Lanning also mentioned this to me. He said that he used to take home, or his studio, Old World Inhabitants, used to take home $8 or $9 on a full price AAA retail game. If you think about that, I mean, it's such a raw deal for the developer.
I'd be interested to hear from a developer actually whether they get more money from the sale of a digital version.
Yeah, well, if you-
because I would be surprised if they did. I would be surprised if a platform holder was saying, you know what, we'll give you a bit more of this money that we've just made.
It's a question for Mike Bithell, who I think is here, so I have to put it to him if he's listening, get in touch. Personal question from David Binmore says, what's your most treasured game or gaming merchandise that you've ever collected on your various travels? Have you got a limited edition Japanese copy of, I don't know, Radiant Silvergun or something?
No, I've got, this is a piece of promotional tat, but I got sent way back a stick of rock with Silent Hill all the way through it. Just thought that was cool.
Is it still
it's got
intact?
It's all
moldy?
It's all minging, yeah. But I thought that was cool. That's probably the coolest thing I've ever had. Like, you get a lot of promotional tat, you don't get so much of it now. But
you used
amazing
to, things.
I've probably got, you probably get 2 Zippo lighters a year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a Call of Duty Zippo lighter with your name engraved on it.
Yeah.
Kind of corny.
A company of heroes, hip flask and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing,
Plenty of USB keys.
This isn't the one I actually kept, but I can't remember what game it was. It was something like Saw, right? And they actually sent a cow's heart.
Yes.
Like an actual cow's heart
raw.
in a vacuum sealed packet.
Yeah, we got one sent to the office and it was delivered on a Saturday afternoon. And no one got there till Monday, and then they it was summer as well. And it was just,
but for Dirt 3, they actually sent us an envelope full of dirt. Actually, no, the one I really like though, I got sent a Vigor from Bioshock Infinite. Like, this is just after the game was announced, with a handwritten note from Ken Levine. I quite like
That's
that.
a nice.
It's worth quite a lot of money actually.
Yeah.
Tom sold one that he got given for Games Aid, and I think he got about 400 quid for it.
There we go.
Really?
That's cool.
I gave mine away to my brother. I could probably get it back.
Yeah, get back with him.
It's like the Skylanders toys that they give out are they're particularly worth a lot because they're very limited. Very limited.
Exactly.
Yeah. Next question from James Briefel. Actually, goes back to the panel you just hosted, Matthew. Says, I'm seriously considering a profession in video game journalism. Find the show a really great way to expand my knowledge of the industry. It's always interesting when you invite certain types of people from different professions on and have them discuss their work and their experiences in their field. For example, the community manager and PR episodes. I'm writing to ask, how can I make myself more appealing to an employer? I'm currently at university and I feel I might as well start practicing and getting more experience. What work experience opportunities should I try to look for? Is there a way I can start writing freelance and get my work out there when someone is hiring? What experience and skills do they look for? And what's the best platform for me to start writing and improve? Now, you hosted this journalism session, Matthew, but what's now the answers to you?
Well, I mean, you were on that panel yourself, Guy. I mean, and we did discuss this sort of. I mean, there are so many ways to get your work published. You can do it on your own blog. You can go for it to any number of different enthusiast sites, and then you go up to the level of sites that commercial enterprises, right? I think the thing is, I would just say brace yourself, because when I started, there was a way of getting paid quite quickly. I think now that's harder. The amount of money you can get paid for a review, for a feature, for anything you care to name is lower than it was 10 years ago. And these days, you might have to be happy to work for free for a while and then maybe just get 20 quid, like some nominal fee per article until you get enough, because from our perspective, there are a lot of people out there, experienced people looking for freelance
and
at the
not
moment.
many
It's
jobs.
tough.
There's maybe 200 paid jobs in the country for writing games journalism. It's
less
incredibly
and less, definitely. I would my advice would be to do the games journalism thing on the side. But if you're serious about it, try and get freelance work or written work in any kind of form for anything, whether that's entertainment, business to business writing. I mean, it sounds boring, and it can be boring, but you will learn so many proper journalism skills. You'll learn the value of deadlines. You'll learn about word counts, structure, news structure, feature
proper
structure,
grammar and spelling.
Interview skills. I've done that. I've worked on some boring business to business magazines, but I learned how to interview the CEO of a really important company properly. Not just come across as an idiot, basically. And you will learn professionalism.
Yeah, and it's a good point, because on this side of things, not only will you learn those skills, but there is less competition, because it's a less sexy thing to do, right? Writing about the way an industry works, but it does teach you a perspective on that industry that I think is extremely useful, even when reapproaching the consumer side of things. So, if you're approaching a site like Games Industry for work, you're not one of 1,000 people. You might be part of a smaller crop. You just need to have more, game, more skills, and a proper journalistic ethic that you can display.
Well, I think most commissioning editors are willing to give something to readers and give someone a bit of feedback as well. I mean, people aren't swamped with it to the point where they literally don't have time to answer an email. It might take a few goes, but if you just send someone something, listen to their feedback, don't get offended if they're harsh with you because they're trying to help you out.
Sure.
Yeah, I always whenever I say no to a free feature pitch, I always say don't stop pitching. Do you know what I mean? Pitch again, come back. Yeah.
And explain why you don't want to.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps. So that was from James Briefel. Thanks for your email, James. Next email's from Ben Summers. This is again to you guys because I haven't had a chance to look really around the show yet. I'm taking my son, who is 13, on Saturday, so tomorrow at time of recording. We're aware of the big hitters at the show, so PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Oculus Rift, but which smaller exhibitors and hidden gems should we search out when we attend? Have you seen anything that
The Indie Arcade, I think, should be one of the first places to go. There's a lot of great games in there. We've hosted some games in there over the last few years that have really blown up and are now like household, international names. There's a whole other section of small indie stuff at the back right of the hall there, things like Red Shirt and that kind of thing.
Mike Biffle's up the back there
with
his new game, Volume. I mean, I would say that Tearaway, the new game from Media Molecule, particularly if it's a particularly young child, that would be absolutely ideal. Very talented studio, everyone seems to really love the game and no one's really queuing up for it.
And they're giving away hats as well.
The other important thing about that is those games are actually demoed by the people that are making them.
Yeah.
Whereas Call of Duty and stuff are being demoed by publishers and professional demo people, I guess. Yeah. Whereas the indie stuff is being, the guy that made it is going to show you how to play it, which is cool. It's cool. It's really cool.
Is there anything on the panel sessions or the developer sessions that's caught your eye if you were going to attend?
I'm not sure what panel sessions there are.
There's pretty much all the big ones.
Okay.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff.
Tomorrow and Saturday I think is probably the real big hitters for the developer sessions, but off the top of my head.
It's hard to recommend, particularly because we're not sure. I mean, personally I want to go and see what The Witcher 3's up to, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend The Witcher 3.
No, should be aware that some of those sessions are going to be 18 and over.
There is an 18. Yeah, there's an 18 area, isn't there?
I think it says a lot about the real big hitters at the industry that it may well be that there's only one or two panels that kid can even get into. Because we are in a very 18 plus, kind of AAA space when it comes to those.
There's a Minecraft tournament.
There's a Minecraft tournament. I'm sure your 13-year-old son into that.
Yeah, pinball tables behind the Call of Duty.
Free pinball up at the back.
Why are we here? Let's go and do that. And then final, very technical question that came up on the last podcast. This is from Nate Langston, who's the editor of Wired UK. I think you were on the same podcast as him, actually. He said, quick reply to the question you had the other week about press start, the action that you have to press start to start the game in most games. He says, I always thought that this was a hangover from when stores like Game and Game Station demoed titles on TVs in store. If you didn't press start, a demo usually looped over and over, which made it easier for staff to put on and ignore. I've no reason to believe this is still the case, but it seems to make sense. What do you think? When you press start to start a game,
you hardly ever have to actually press start. You can press
nearly
anything, but it's weird that it has that legacy of still saying
but
that.
Potentially, just back to the arcades as well, where machines were just running constantly and you had to put in some money and then you had to signal that you're ready to begin. Because with the arcades, obviously, they're all geared around getting another 20p off you every 15 minutes or whatever, so I guess you need to be ready to go. It could be that.
But it's a nice kind of psychological feeling as well, though, isn't it? Just kind of get a new game and be like,
let's go.
Do it.
There's only a few games that don't do that.
Grand Theft Auto doesn't do it.
Go straight into it,
straight into your game, which is brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, I like that too.
I don't want to look at screens.
It does mean you can only have one game going at once, though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that's true. Well, thanks very much for your emails. You can get in touch with the show and ask any questions. I'll put them to my next guest. It's podcast@guycocker.com. Okay, last time I had 3 codes for Super Frog on PlayStation 3 and Vita to give away. I had 3 codes for each version, and this is astonishing. I don't know what you guys think about this. I had way more entries for the Vita version.
Really?
Yeah, than PlayStation 3. Like Vita seems relatively popular at the show as well. So
it's really building some momentum at the minute.
It's gaining ground. It's the smaller games have really brought the whole platform to life. I know people play Hotline Miami, games like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pitched as this kind of super high-end product, but really it's these indie games that have kind of given people a reason to pick it up on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, indie games like Super Frog. So, so Vita winners are Robert Dearlove, Craig Smith Pollard, and Alan Shannon. And one PlayStation 3 winner is Tim Harris. So there's still some PlayStation 3 codes up for grabs if you want to get in touch. This week, no competition, but I'm interested to know what you guys think. Whether you want me to carry on doing competitions, please let me know what you think. Okay, time for the news section. I've picked out this week's big and interesting news stories, and I'll ask these guys what they think. So first up, Sony confirms PlayStation 4 package bundle with Killzone Shadowfall. I've got the name of the game then. A camera, second DualShock controller, and that's going to cost around £420. So slightly, it's just basically around the same price as Xbox One, which is clearly what they're going for. What do you guys think? This was announced at the Expo.
First shot across the bows, I think, really, isn't it?
Yeah. There's another shot across the rail, surely.
I think it'll be fine. The PS3 launched at 425. It'll be fine.
I think for me that the big thing is the Killzone factor, whether that's a game that you can sell a console with or not.
They do keep trying to shove it as a big kind of Sony exclusive.
For me, Killzone. By the time at Killzone 3, I felt it was a bit like Resistance. You know, like there just seemed to be less and less momentum and love for that series, and
quite formulaic.
I mean, it's one of their IP, and I don't know, is that the best game to bundle with that system?
I'd say
and make it fly off the shelves.
They'd be better off with FIFA again, right?
FIFA,
I think so. FIFA means having to do a deal with EA, right?
Which Microsoft has already done anyway. So.
Yeah, that's true.
And I guess it's quite good. They're obviously all very technically solid games. They're all like very pretty games as well. So maybe that's their thing. They're trying to sell it as going. This is what it can look like.
It's a brand as well,
and a controllable game as well. It's first party, and they can say we know exactly the quality control that's gone into this.
I was going to say they should bundle it with Drive Club, but no one knows. No one's played Drive Club. It's got no reputation yet.
So I was going to say it's either that or Drive Club or Infamous. I think are their first party titles, or I don't know, a year of PlayStation Plus or a selection.
That's something I expected to see more of.
I think on that front, I think Microsoft's got a slight leg up because I think a game like Forza, I mean, you're guaranteed a certain level of quality.
Yeah.
It's also an excellent advert for what the system can do, and that's a launch title for them. I think that's going to help sell a system much better than Shadowfall will.
So are you going to pump for a PlayStation 4, and would you get the standard one or this bundle?
PC and Oculus Rift.
PC all the way.
Oh man, it's controversial.
What about you guys?
I don't know. I'm torn. Like when the first Xbox One announcements came out, I was like, I'm not gonna bother with Xbox One, to the point where I cancelled my Gold Live subscription.
I've let mine lapse as well, actually,
which I'm regretting now because of GTA Online. But I don't know. I'm not going to be able to decide until a couple of days before.
You can go in store and buy a new subscription. Right?
Yeah, I know, but
who does that?
I'm going to be getting everything. I want everything.
Yeah,
I want to play
day
on
one as well.
There is that.
I will buy a console, but for me, Titanfall makes a huge difference.
Okay.
I don't think Sony has got anything to rival Titanfall in terms of exclusive.
It's the most popular game here by a mile, isn't it?
I think the best time to buy a new system is next March, April-ish, when that kind of second run of games start to emerge. And Titanfall, it's game of the show E3, game of the show Gamescom. I mean, and as much as you can say Microsoft, mishandled things, that is a hell of an ace they've got to play.
Everyone will forget about anything when it comes to Titanfall. The games do the talking, right?
Next news story is GTA Online microtransactions. First details have emerged. This is from Eurogamer, I believe, reporting that Rockstar will be offering 4 GTA Online currency cards that will give users varying amounts of in-game Wonga to splash on cars and properties. The cheapest option will be the £1.99 Red Shark cash card, which nets you nearly $100,000 in the game, and then £3.49 and £6.99. What's the denominations? What do you guys think? I mean, they had to do it, but I think a lot of people were disappointed that Rockstar have stooped this low.
Well, but this is the thing, because people get very reactionary about microtransactions, but you do forget, online games that are intended to run for years and years, they cost money to operate. Now, I know they made a packet off of GTA, but the fact of the matter is, anyone who bought their copy of GTA for $60 and don't think they got their $60 worth just from the single-player game is being a little disingenuous. This online thing has never existed. Well, it has existed before, but it's looking pretty good and way more feature-filled than the other. And you don't have to buy it. I mean, really, it's all in the balancing, right?
I think people's problems with it was I think that they saw it as a play to win, pay to win.
Yeah.
And if money's everything in the game, if it means you can go out and buy an F-16 and then just run around strafing people, then that's seen as cheating. But I think the way that they're structuring it, it's going to be a gradual release of the weapons that are actually available to buy. It's not actually going to be a massive advantage. I think it's probably just going to be if you have a bad day and you lose a load of money and you just can't be bothered to build it all up.
Or it'll allow you presumably to spend it on the cribs that they were sort of like the houses and
the pricing structure is very
and
different apparently in the online mode than it is in the single player. Things are
at least it's cash for cash as well. It's pretty it's pretty clear what they're selling you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't really know what you're getting
Right.
with that DLC and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is pretty basic. You know, you're buying money to spend in the game. That makes absolute sense. And the online modes are free.
Yeah.
Give it a go and then decide if you want to pay.
It's pretty soon, isn't it now? Actually, what are we
Yeah,
on? It's October the
next
1st,
week.
next week. It sounds, Matt, as though you feel you're pretty positive about the game in general.
Well, the thing is, like, I think the game's great, yeah, and I mean, I think, you know, I have a problem with microtransactions when they impinge on an experience, you know. So Dead Space 3 had microtransactions sort of baked into the single player game, and I kind of object to that because you paid a lot of money for that experience. Whereas Rockstar, I think, very deliberately kept it all onto the online side. And the online game, to me, after I'm 60% of the way through GTA 5, it feels like something for free. It really does. Like I felt I had my 40 quid's worth after 10 hours of GTA 5. So the fact that there's this online game, which really does look very impressive, that's just waiting there for me. I mean, I imagine very often with really good free-to-play games, you feel like you want to spend a little bit of money. You want to reward it, and not that Rockstar needs an extra £2 of my cash, but I can see myself buying a few of those cards.
Sure. What do you think, Dan? Are you playing it?
Oh yeah, no, I have. It took me a while for it to click with me, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it now,
Right.
and really looking forward to the online stuff. You know, it looks like it's going to be sort of really playful kind of stuff.
So you could see yourself dropping some...
No,
I wouldn't go that far.
I don't think I've ever spent any money on a free-to-play game, which is a horrible thing for somebody who's supposed to be part of and supporting the games industry to say, but I will actively go out my way to play free-to-play games as long as I can without spending any money on them.
Well, that's not a bad thing. I'm sure that reflects a lot of people's views on it. Yeah. What about yourself, Matt?
I love GTA, so I would think I would spend some money on it. I'm happy to do that. Like Matthew, I'm getting an awesome experience out of it that I paid for. I'm very happy with that. You know, if the online mode is basically the heist that you do in the game, but with your mates. Bring it on. I'm ready for that. I know.
Get that Xbox Live subscription.
Give me a gold AK-47 to do it with. Do you know what I mean? I'll pay a $5 for that. I'm shallow.
Well, that's the thing, and I think, you know, Rockstar can sidestep some issues by giving people the ability to coordinate with each other, so they don't have to be in positions where someone can pay to win. Right? If there's any way that those funds can be abused to kind of effectively win the game before it's even started. By good matchmaking tools, allowing people to communicate well in the game, like I think you can get around some of that stuff. You know, again, do they absolutely need to be there when they made $1 billion in three days? I just think it's kind of an irrelevant question almost, you know.
Well, I was going to ask you guys next, obviously, with your sort of business slant. I mean, when I talked about the game on a number of outlets, it was all about, you know, how long is it going to take to make $1 billion and how much is it going to sell. I mean, it's done very, very well, hasn't it?
It's done amazingly. I don't think any of us expected to see those figures.
Not $1 billion in 3 days.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Rockstar themselves were saying, putting out to the media that they were going to sell 3 million UK pre-orders, but that was actually about 1.61 million, I think. So it was. They definitely told me that.
I've heard different numbers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was closer to 3 million.
Was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think it ended up being around there.
It was it 3.2 or something?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Pre-orders, though.
Oh, I don't know about pre-orders. Sorry, I mean, you know, up to that, as in contribution to that $1 billion revenue.
Right. Right.
But it's insane. You know, that's the biggest entertainment release of all time. You know, and that's just astonishing.
And this is the thing, right? Because, you know, when Activision, you know, have had, you know, the previous like 4 record breakers or whatever, and they trumpeted loudly, we made $300 million in a day. But you've got to remember that you know, they were selling like a $300 special edition and stuff, and like GTA hasn't quite had that same like stratification.
It had
of
like
products.
was a £60 special edition.
Yeah, it did, but they weren't selling anything really expensive to bump the figures up. This is one of the first times where even if you take that 1 billion and divide it by 60, which is the average, the amount of people that bought it is actually equivalent to, say, a film like a Batman or whatever, whereas it never has been in the past. When you kind of divide Batman's take by the average price of a cinema ticket, it still is way more popular than a Call of Duty, whereas this is a sort of an order of magnitude more than Call of Duty, which is the surprising thing, because, you know, we talk a lot about the AAA games and their future, and there's a lot there's a big belief within the industry that they might have seen their day, but like this sort of thing comes along, and you really have to wonder how much more growth there can be for games like this.
I want to talk about, I haven't got the notes in front of me, but the Steam machines, because there have been a number of announcements this week. So first there was Steam OS, and now there's a series of machines, and then of course, what are we on now? Is it Is it going to be Half-Life 3?
One in about,
tonight?
1 hour's
in
time.
45 minutes.
Right, okay, we better.
7 o'clock. Oh,
6, I think.
Let's
We're all
check.
obviously hoping that that's Half-Life 3.
Yeah. Do you I mean, we're obviously going to look very stupid if it's because this will be going out afterwards. You're going to put a bet on it?
It might be.
Might have already happened, isn't it?
Controller, okay.
Yeah, that
They
kind
did
of
say
makes
that there
sense.
was something going to happen, but they've also basically hinted with the Steam machines that keyboard and mouse aren't going to be the primary input for it. So there's some talk about how it might be a visor that like Jerry Ellsworth was sort of working on before she left, or something like the Leap Motion, the kind of the IR finger tracker kind of thing like that, or something more like Oculus Rift. But yeah, I think it actually might already have happened.
Oh, we're on our phones.
Let's report live.
Do we need to stop recording? Do you guys need to write something up?
No.
Oh, good.
We've got Americans to do that for us.
Valve has sort of revealed that they've been looking into wearable computing and biometric testing. And one thing they've really pushed towards with all of these announcements is working on UI and the way you actually interface with their products, which is not something you really need to do so much in PC, but when it comes to the living room, it's really important. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was a controller. I just wish to God it was Half-Life 3.
They've just been acquired by Apple, and the Half-Life 3 is going to be an iPhone exclusive.
Free to play. Imagine the fury.
But there is definitely a question mark over. I don't know. These announcements, they are Valve's attempt to kind of enter that living room battle that Sony and Microsoft are waging. I don't know.
It sounds as though you're the PC gamer. I'm a PC gamer as well, but it sounds as though you're really into it. Are you interested in sort of building a machine and installing SteamOS on there?
I'm interested in paying somebody to build a machine for me, but I think I would, because the reason why I like the look of a PC over, say, as my preferred platform over a next-gen console is because of Steam.
You've got that library there.
I love the pricing, I love the flash sales, and these are things that I don't think the console guys can join in on, at least for the next 5 years or so.
That's true, yeah. So the pricing issue is very, very interesting. I wrote a piece about, obviously it's more expensive to buy a PC, £800, say, at least, over a next-gen console, but if you have it over 5 years or 3 years, you're going to make that back in cheaper games.
I think you just need to be more engaged, which is why I wonder what Valve's play is for the living room, because
it's a Steam controller.
It's a Steam controller.
So,
I mean, they kind of made that play with the big screen stuff.
Yeah, big picture.
That was a definite play to going like, well, we know people only play PC games for about an hour and a half at a time because you get uncomfortable. People want to play it on the sofa, they can do that, and I think you're right. It is moving towards that thing, because the PC has always been that kind of media hub that the consoles are trying to become now. You can stream stuff on it, you can watch films on it.
And they've said they're going to have those media functions. I assume they're talking like Netflix and those partners there.
Unquestionably, yeah.
And then finally, it sounds as though Half-Life 3 we're going to have to wait even longer, Matt.
Damn it.
And then finally, a bit of industry news. Rod Ferguson, ex-Epic Games, is now setting up a new 2K studio in the San Francisco Bay Area. So this is the former Gears of War producer and Irrational Games producer as well, executive vice president. He was at Irrational. Has announced the formation of a new 2K game studio in the San Francisco Bay Area. Don't know if there's much to say about that, but there's lots of developers there.
Always pleased to see more 2K.
I think it's interesting, and 2K are really good about empowering their creators, and new IPs.
Sure,
and things
actually,
like that. They give a lot. They give their creatives. Their creative talent an awful lot of leeway to do their thing, and it pays off for them. Yeah, they do.
It pays off. It doesn't pay off. I was out to see the guys 2K Marin, and they spent a lot of time on the Bureau XCOM Declassified, and it kind of died a death.
They did, and that's a shame. I thought it looked pretty good from the very word go.
Sorry, Dan, you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, I think it's always good to see more 2K stuff. As much as they do take risks and they create some really interesting stuff. And it's nice to see a really creative guy like Rod sort of being given the helm for that and just saying, build your studio, choose who you hire, presumably choose what you work on. So hopefully we'll be seeing a brand new IP coming out of there in the next few years.
And presumably he can attract some talent as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's done a very good job. They brought him into that troubleshooter Previously he's obviously impressed there, and I imagine they'll be giving him a lot of free rein to do what he needs to do.
Potentially keep an eye on Epic and who's leading that place.
Yeah,
I
know
LinkedIn. I know Rod left Epic a while ago, but a lot of people have left Epic since.
Yeah, and and I know
gone,
Tim Sweeney.
Well, yeah,
Tim Sweeney
that's it.
and who's the Biz dude?
Wasn't not Mark Rain?
No, not Mark Rain, but the other guy who's really nice. I can't remember his name. Anyway, the fact that they've all gone is quite interesting since they got a portion of the company acquired.
Sure.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're struggling under pressure from things like Unity, to be honest. I mean, it wasn't so long ago that the Unreal Engine was so ubiquitous that it began to be a bit of a problem. Now you'd fire up a game and just be like, oh god, it looks exactly the same.
I don't think they're struggling with that. I think they're probably struggling from a creative side. A lot of the creative guys have gone. So, maybe the focus is on the engine business more than the games business. So that's why there's not another Gears of War. Having said that, they are working on something really special that's good. But I can't really say.
Bit of an exclusive here.
No, it's
Unreal
not. They've
Tournament.
announced it.
Seven or
They've
something.
announced it before. But yeah, you should watch. Do a bit of research on that.
Do you think they'll be talking about it more soon?
Yeah, I think so. No, I think they're taking their time, which is a good sign.
Yeah,
it's pretty special.
They've certainly got cash in the bank to be able to wait.
They have.
Yeah, of course. All right, thanks very much for your insight on the news, guys. If you want to find out more about these stories, you can check out the running order that's available on guycocker.com. Okay, time to talk to the guys about what you've been up to at the moment. We talked a little bit about GTA 5. Is there anything else that you're playing at the moment that's on the radar? Is it just eating up? You're 60% through the game in a week and a half, which is pretty good.
Basically, that basically means I've not been doing anything but playing GTA whenever I've got a spare minute. And
has he been writing some stories, Matt?
He's been doing a bit of work. I'm the same, man. I mean, I don't get as much time to play games as I'd like, but yeah, I've been playing GTA 5. Since I even leading up to that, I stopped playing stuff because I knew there was no point because I wouldn't have any interest. And I tried a few games and it was just like I tried Mafia 2 because it was free on PlayStation Plus. I played it for maybe 20 minutes. Just there's no point. I just wanted GTA. So
Yeah, I made the rookie error of dropping 15 quid on State of Decay like the day before I got GTA, and I played 10 minutes of it basically. So I'm not going to go back to it for weeks.
So it's going to take up your time for the foreseeable future as well.
I would have thought so, especially with online. Like I can see every spare minute I get to spend on gaming being consumed with the online stuff.
I mean, the obvious other big releases have been football related, FIFA and Pro Evo.
Well, I do have an opinion on that because I've been playing. I played those demos, and I think Pro Evo has it this year.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's better. I think it's much better actually. I've always preferred FIFA because Pro Evo is a much more challenging game to play, but I really just think that the FIFA team have left themselves with very little room to progress with that. I mean, because it's very quick. It's unreasonably quick. The speed with which you can get up the pitch and score a goal. And the thing is, when you're going down that road, there is really only so far you can go with it. And like a lot of the tweaks, if you look back, has been around things like player movement, player animations, things like that, like refining and honing rather than actually changing the way the game feels to play, and also Ultimate Team and things around it. Whereas Pro Evo, I mean, if you really just want a game that plays like a game of football with the same sort of surprises and unexpected aspect of it, I think Pro Evo's definitely got that this year.
That's interesting because reviews have said that FIFA has slowed down and has a much more unpredictable element to it.
Yeah. It's this weird thing, I've interviewed, David Rutter and some of the guys on the FIFA games, and I asked this question every time I get to interview him. It's like you can't, when you're simulating something, you reach a point where adding things can make it worse. That happened to Pro Evo, and they will never, ever, ever take that on. They will never, ever contemplate. So no, we can add things for the rest of time. But but you do wonder how much better can FIFA get at what it does? Yeah. And I think it may already have reached that point.
Something that Patrick Soderbergh was mentioned the other day, and he's just become head of EA Sports, having been at DICE and sort of been at the EA Games boss, and he was saying he wants to take some of his ethos from EA Games of coming up with new ideas to the sports franchises and stop them being so iterative and stop just putting a little bit more polish on. He wants to start making kind of big, bold changes, for sort of not every year, but at least start taking some new directions. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what he does with that.
That's a difficult job to take on, though, because Wilson's been so successful with Ultimate Team. Yeah. I mean, that's been the big...
And it's 85% of the company's income, I mean, that's a huge responsibility.
But I think,
really is.
In the digital age, you have to do that because because, you know, with FIFA, the difference between FIFA 14 and FIFA 13 on the way it plays is very small. And in the digital age, when, you know, in their major markets, most people have access to a decent enough broadband connection to download and update, right? You have to create a more compelling argument for charging someone 40 quid every year for what effectively, and I believe this time, is really an updated team roster, you know, a few tweaks to animations, maybe someone falls over more convincingly or whatever, but, you know, in the digital age you can patch that stuff in just as easily, you know.
Maybe they should make it a subscription MMO instead, you know, and just get people paying £6 a month.
Microtransactions.
On 3DS, it is the big fuss was that it is the same game. It's literally the same game with a kit update for £30, which is ridiculous.
Exactly, the old EA shining through.
It doesn't do anyone any good, does it?
I picked up an iPhone 5S this week and going to be checking out Infinity Blade 3. Any interest in that at all?
No
iPhone gamers.
No, I play games on the iPhone. The problem with the iPhone game is, for me, is everything is free at some point. So if it comes out, I'm happy to wait for it to go free, and there'll be a promotion where it's free for 24 hours. Or, you know, something along those lines.
Or it's pennies or something.
Yeah, they just drop in price.
12 days of Christmas or whatever it is.
It makes me sound tight because, you know, these games are only a couple of quid anyway. But I just don't see the point. There's no urgency in playing those games. No. That's not to say that there's not great games. You know, I love CSR Racing. I still play that. I've just
that's been ridiculously successful for
I've just downloaded and played the alternative epilogue to The Room.
I just played that.
That was pretty cool. You know, that's 2 hours played. Do you know what I mean? But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Room's a great game.
Yeah,
the epilogue is free, right? Is it?
It's free extra.
And there's Room 2 on the show floor.
Yeah,
today
that's
well.
one for one of for the Reader with the Sun, like Room 2. That's
I love the Room.
Yeah, and the Fireproof guys are demoing that as well. And they're really nice.
Barry Mead.
He's good. Ask for Barry Mead.
Barry Mead is one of the nicest guys in games. Actually, that leads in nicely into this week's releases. There's not a great deal. We talked about FIFA 14, Inazuma 11. Actually, FIFA 14 is 84 on 360 and 86 on PS3. So I think that is a dip from, it was about 90 Metacritic.
That's a definite dip
for the previous version. Armored Core Verdict Day. I have to say, ArmoredCore is a bit of a blind spot.
Is it supposed to be very good?
Well, actually, it's 68 on the PlayStation 3 at least.
Apparently, for fans of the series, it's an improvement over Armored Core 5. Whether that interests people is another question.
No interest.
The other game of the week, Disgaea D2, A Brighter Darkness, 73 on Metacritic.
Great games, Disgaea games, but they are incredibly complex.
If that's your jam, that's going to make your day, basically, but it's not something I've ever got to grips with.
And then, as I mentioned, Inazuma 11.3, there's two versions of it in the sort of Pokemon way.
That's the football management.
It is, right, with like an RPG elements as well. I used to commission reviews of them on GameSpot, and they used to get literally hundreds of views, like nothing at all. Like
there seems to be quite a lot of Japanese games on the release list this year.
And then Train Simulator 2014. Anyone?
Big hitter.
Any buys?
Modern classic.
Does surprisingly well for him, actually.
It does. Yeah. No Metacritic score on that one as yet. Okay, thanks very much for coming on this episode, guys. That's pretty much it. Where can we check out more of your work? Obviously, there's GamesIndustry.biz. You're on Twitter. And
GamesIndustry.biz. I'm on Twitter as M_Spitz, SPITZ. Don't expect anything in the way of insight. It's just generally bad language and hip hop references and a little bit of video games.
Yes,
but, feel free.
I'm on as Danbo Jones. It's mostly
Danbo Jones.
Yeah, musings about Dwarf Fortress and pictures of my dog. Essentially, that's my social media output.
What about you, Matthew?
I'm on there as at Matt Handrahan, but there is precious little reason to follow my
You're
Twitter
really
feed.
not selling it.
I'm just a Luddite on that one. But you should follow at GIBiz because that is where you get all of the good stuff about the games industry.
Get that plug in.
And follow Rob Farhi as well, who's our weekly columnist, who is one of the best kind of authoritative voices when it comes to games industry analysis and insight. He's an incredible kind of font of knowledge.
I have to say Rob is the best writer in the industry, I'd say. So definitely check him out. Thanks very much again, guys. If you've got any feedback, please send it to podcast@guycocker.com. Next week I'm on holiday, but I'll be back the following week with another episode of the show. Head over to twitter.com/guycocker for more updates, or just subscribe in iTunes to have them delivered as soon as they're available. And if you're feeling generous, leave me a review. We'll see you next time.